Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Whiteside, licensed clinical social worker with Terrebonne Home Care. Very glad you are joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it. And we are always so very glad to get some political updates, finding out for the people that are really fighting for us over in Baton Rouge and taking time to do that. We welcome back to the program Jerome Zeringue. Jerome, welcome back.
Hey, Keith, great to be back. Good to
We
see you.
we appreciate it. We appreciate it. Of course, District 52 state representative. So one of the things that I know, there are very few people that know as much about what's happening with any budget, but you're one of those people that is fortunately in the know. Tell us a little bit about what we're seeing, what's happening as you guys discuss the budget.
Well, Keith, we have finished the budget in terms of the House. So fiscal instruments have to be generated on the House floor. So we've passed out the House Bill 1, which is dealing with funding state the general fund of the budget and funding agencies. We also passed out HB 2, which funds capital outlay and projects. We also did the supplemental bill and also addressed the excess funding and judicial budget. And those are the budgets. Primarily, we passed those over to the Senate. And in fact, the Senate in committee is going to start hearing them this week. It's kind of an embarrassment of riches right now because we have surplus dollars that were recognized in excess of around 700 million, of which 10% has to go to reduce the unfunded accrued liability to the retirement system, and 25% goes to the rainy day fund. And that's a good thing because our rainy day fund, after what we've put in now, will be over 750 million. And that is used in case there's deficits or proposed. It's kind of like a cushion that we have to ensure that the state will have revenue and resources to address shortfalls, which unfortunately are projected within the next couple of years. But we're working on and put the money that we do have both in excess and surplus dollars to good use and the good projects in our region. And so we've gotten that out of the House and it's now going over to the Senate.
Well, and so very important, as you mentioned, when we have things like COVID and we have things like Ida, that cushion makes a huge difference because we have so many dollars that stop coming in that we can rely on. And so it's nice to be able to have a little bit of that cushion, and hopefully the Senate will approve all of that as well.
Yeah, and the rainy day fund too is critical to that, and also reducing and trying to use the money that we have, the non-recurring dollars. There's no doubt that we have over $1 billion in excess from the current year because of the conservative estimate that the Revenue Estimating Conference put on the budget because of COVID and everything else, but because of the infusion of the federal dollars, the economy is obviously doing much better, but it's going those federal dollars won't keep coming in. And there's going to be a shortfall when the 0.45 sales tax rolls off in 2 years, and some other funding dedicated to auto tax is going to go to roads and bridges. But we're preparing for that, and we're making sure that the money we do have is going for non-recurring expenses, infrastructure, critical needs within the state, putting one-time money on one-time projects. The only recurring dollars primarily that we're using in next year's budget that someone can say what's growing budget is really going to the teacher pay raise. We put in over 140 million in next year's budget to allow for a 1,500 per month increase, per year increase for teachers and 750 for support workers.
And look, so very important. I love the fact that we're looking at the importance of taking care of those people who are really out there teaching our kids. And so I know that's been a long time coming. It's something that's been discussed for years, and I'm glad we've earmarked some funds for it.
Yeah, and it's desperately needed. We're trying to get to at least the Southern average. Our teachers deserve the pay raise. They work hard. And in fact, so over the past 4 years, we've increased teacher pay by over $3,000. And obviously, it's not getting us to where we need to be in terms of the Southern average. And we're working to try to ensure that we can get our teachers the funding that they need and make it somewhat equivalent to Mississippi, Arkansas are paying more. And we want to make sure that we can try to support our teachers as best we can.
Yeah, we want to keep them here. We've got the best of things in Louisiana. We want to keep the best teachers here as well. Any other updates on the budget or maybe some project funding that you wanted to mention?
Sure. Some of the things in terms of what we're working on, again, on those one-time dollars, addressing critical needs in our region, putting money to flood protection, which is important to our region. Also looking at some of the bridge needs, pump station work, and working with the parish Uh, President Dove has done a great job in terms of addressing a lot of the drainage needs, and we're working with him to support to put additional projects into some road and infrastructure work as well. Also, in Lafourche Parish, working with them to not only help everybody get back to where we were before the storm. I was talking to Earl Hughes yesterday. We still have 9,000 people in trailers because of the storm. It's a shame, and we're working to try to, as best we can, put some infrastructure improvements to be prepared, better prepared in the event, unfortunate event, there is another storm. But making sure the people that we do have currently have still in trailers and trying to make them whole again and getting people back to hopefully as close as we can to where they were before the storm.
Yeah, and listen, I know as we close out here, it's an ongoing battle to make sure that we're doing what we can to help people with temporary housing, and at the same time trying to fight for making sure that we have them safe as, hurricane season here just few weeks away as we're anticipating that. And I know that you guys are thinking about that. I know y'all are thinking about all of the people as they've been displaced, and it's really comforting to know that we're establishing where to put some of these monies and where these one-time funds go to make sure that we're doing that. There's some things that are happening with higher education as well, right?
Yeah, again, in terms of the budget and the fortunate position we find ourselves in with additional surplus and excess dollars, we want to make sure that we can address needs both for K through 12 education, and we're looking at investing, and we are investing a significant amount in early childhood education, which is important. That's essentially that's the building blocks for getting children prepared for school. So early childhood education is also important, in addition to supporting the teachers, as we mentioned earlier, but also looking in higher education. It's important to ensure that we keep the best and brightest here in Louisiana. And if they come to universities here, they're more than likely to have a greater propensity to stay here in the state. And so we're supporting higher education programs that we're working, increasing some of the nursing programs at Nichols, looking at deferred maintenance and working with the community and technical college system in Fletcher. There's a huge initiative in working to try to address healthcare workers. And there's a significant lack of personnel, both teachers to teach nursing and healthcare workers, but also to provide for the students so we can increase those numbers. There's a shortage of over 1,500 nurses throughout the state. In fact, they're getting paid more to go and travel nursing than they are to stay here, and it's causing a significant problem. So working with community and technical college system, higher education, to work on addressing those needs, but also looking at deferred maintenance and building and issues that we need to keep working to address within our university system. So again, the whole point is about keeping the best and brightest here in Louisiana.
Yeah, and listen, I can tell you, just being in healthcare, we see it every day where it's so very important to get them. And I love the idea about making sure that we're starting at the point of teaching and educating and making sure we're getting some of those educators to be able to come and teach them good skills because we've got such a shortage in healthcare right now. It's good to see the big picture about going to the source. Let's find better teachers to teach these students more because there's a lot of them out there that want that and being able
Yes.
to utilize that in our healthcare deficits.
That's right. And so we're addressing those needs. We're also putting, it's an interesting program. It was always in the state, but it's never really funded. And we put $8 million, and I think in the Senate, we're going to try to put a little bit more. But working with doctors to get them in rural settings, one of the problems is getting doctors and providing healthcare services in a lot of the rural communities. And we're having a program to support that if the doctor will commit to working in a rural setting for 3 to 5 years, they will offset their cost for their school costs and student loans and stuff to help them incentivize them to come in and work in a rural setting. Also, in terms of the budget, I also put together a IDA relief fund that we have $30 million, similar to kind of what we did for the Calcasieu Parish after Laura, that the intent is as municipalities, political subdivisions, and those entities that were impacted by the storm, obviously the insurance in many cases in the school board and others, there was insufficient insurance or the insurance is not covering a lot of the impacts that they had. So what this will do is allow for communities, municipalities, the parish, schools, that if what was the gap between what was paid by insurance and not paid by insurance was what I should say, and the deductible and everything else, that they can apply for these funds and we can try to make them whole. And so we have that program set. And so hopefully it'll make it through the process, the budget process, that'll be available for our region.
Right, absolutely, and we certainly need that as we try and close that gap. As we move on now to maybe some of the bills, I know that this abortion bill is one of the things that's been really highly discussed.
Yeah, it is. And it's on the floor today. And believe me, I am 100% pro-life and support all efforts to work on ending abortion. But the challenge and what the bill is before Representative McCormick's bill, unfortunately, it's in extreme and in excess in terms of making people who are actually going through in vitro, and doctors who are helping people who are trying to, believe me, we had to have the experience of going through trying to have increase our opportunities to have a child. We were blessed with one son, lucky to have him. He's a gift, but we had difficulty and we had to go through that process like many families have to do. Well, based upon the bill that's being proposed with Representative McCormick, those efforts, we would be considered a potential, both the doctors who engage in that and the individuals, as murderers. So it's an extreme position, and it's something that is, again, I'm 100% pro-life,
Right.
but the Catholic bishops have come out against this bill, all major pro-life organizations. It's just an extreme measure that how whatever the intention is, it's not the appropriate. You don't want to criminalize or make families who are trying to have children criminals, and that's unfortunately what this bill does. Again, we need to continue to fight to end abortion, but this bill that's being proposed right now is not the answer and not the way to do it. And that's going to be a significant controversial bill, and it's going to be on the floor today.
Yeah, and just too widespread. Sometimes you need to make sure that you make it a little bit more specific to addressing the particular need or issue with abortion, not including those who are trying to do work opposite of that and bring life and be part of doing that. So I agree with you. Got about 30 seconds left here. And so I appreciate that. Anything else you want to add as we close?
Well, again, hopefully the budget that we do have now is going to help address critical infrastructure needs and making sure that we're addressing the one-time issues without growing government, to make sure that we're preparing for the proposed deficit, not the proposed, but the actual deficit that will be realized in a couple of years, and making sure we do the best we can.
Yeah. Z, we appreciate your time as always. Thanks so much for fighting for us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Good seeing you, Keith.
Same here. All right. That'll do it for us here for this particular segment. Don't go anywhere. A lot more Bayou Time as we continue.